There we go. Okay, so last time we finished chapter 3. Helmet and Forceps had just gone to bed after Helmet launched Pinpoint, their new sorry, I got the yawns today. Their new like search algorithm. So we're gonna work on chapter 4. I've gone through it once already, but yeah. Anyways, let's read this baby. Can you see? Okay, you probably can't read it, but that's okay. I will read it to you. Chapter 4. Exploring Gust Town. The next morning, when the vertical tram doors slid open, Forceps directed their clunky old mech chair toward the reversed section at the front. Oh, reversed? No, reserved. Toward the reserved section at the front. It was in full auto mode, avoiding obstacles and creating a path through the small crowd. The transport's transparent shell looked out onto the wide intersection cornered by the city's 4 massive cable towers. Carabiner was dressed in a black and white moire whose patterns swam as you rose. Redwood was shelled in living bark of genetically in the living bark of genetically modified redwoods. Table Leg, their tower, which allowed for occupants to recolor at will, had come out a wild beacon of color, and Silo, the traditionalist in glittering, self-cleaning glass. These were not the heavy-footed skyscrapers of history lessons, with their steel skeletons, the cable towers hooked to the ground more than stood on it. Each level stacking like vertebrae around the massive cables, which stretched taut. Oh my lord. Sorry, y'all. Each level stacking like vertebrae around the massive cables which stretched taut, anchoring to an orbiting counterweight above. If you were just going a few floors, if you were just going a few levels, you couldn't book an express. It was only a local car or the ramps, but they were climbing high, and this train made just 2 stops on the way up, metering out passengers like wartime rations until full stop on floor 704, where the elevator, man, I am doing so good today, where the elevator regurgitated its remaining passengers into the airlock of a little shopping district affectionately named Gust Town. The climb was dazzling. Helmet loved watching the vegetation shift from lush and tangled to sparse and scraggly as the air grew thinner. All that life slowly replaced by long slices of crisp blue sky. At the 8-kilometer mark, humans quickly ran out of oxygen, and while the city did go up that high, it was mostly solar collectors and cable maintenance drones at those heights. Even the space elevator port was down at 5 kilometers. The city's population, a dwindling 40 million at last count, lived and worked in the city's bottom 1 kilometer. Floor 704 marked the highest residents were allowed without special clearance. Above that, you left the safety of the planetary boundary layer, the cushion of air closest to the ground, that was slowed by friction of the earth and atmospheric pressure. But it wasn't just lack of oxygen that kept folks living low down. Back home in their home level, it was rare to feel the towers swaying in the wind. But up here, motion could quickly go from barely noticeable to knock you down if you weren't... Hi, friends! If you weren't careful. Since Large-scale imports were illegal. The city depended on hundreds of vertical farms and grow labs dispersed throughout the towers to provide all the food, clothing, goods, and medicines needed. They were mixed in among the private compartments, retail shops, community spaces, performance halls, religious centers, medical facilities, maintenance tubes, city parks, and public spaces. It was a jumble of improvised and strictly planned, brightly colored, and solid beige. One sure adage to living in the cable towers was sleep high, work low. Not that this precaution kept everyone from getting altitude lag. The sentence is kind of weird. One sure adage of living in the cable towers was sleep high, work low. Not that this precaution kept everyone from getting altitude lag. Maybe I should just take this out and add. But the cable city populations, I guess maybe just know the. So maybe we just try it like this. Not that this precaution kept everyone from getting altitude lag, but cable city populations had learned over the decades to build habitation units higher up because the commute down flushed you full of extra oxygen while keeping your blood full of hemoglobin. There was plenty of low-altitude housing, though, usually snatched up by residents with medical altitude restrictions and religious preferences for dirt close by. The train chimed. 7:04, last stop. All passengers must exit the transport. Disgorging the crush of people into a platform already buzzing with eager bodies. Let's see. I think that we're going to move. I have this to do here to describe the platform that they come out of the elevator onto. And this is some of it, but I'm not sure it's all of it. But we'll try it out and see what happens. The elegant glass atrium was clogged with welcome signs in at least a dozen languages, pointing newcomers to the right screening line and fast pass holders toward the swipe and go turnstiles. One knot of overwhelmed looking grounders was frozen mid walkway as helmet and forceps passed. And then we switch back here. Sodding mutters holding up the line. A sour-faced woman scowled, waiting behind. Since I already mentioned them over there, I'll say the gang of slow-moving tourists, wide-eyed and breathing hard in the thin air. 704 was a popular floor for newbies and visitors. So much for hospitality, Forceps snapped back. Do, 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 do. They would not put up with epithets no matter who the victim. Keep your mouth to yourself, they said, loud enough the tourists could hear when the Karen reeled on forceps, ready to defend her nasty words. I can say what I like about filthy grounders, she spat, her face cut with anger. You're right. Unfortunately, you never learned the difference between what you can do and what you should do. Forceps motored past, ignoring her glares. There are oxygen mask vendors just there, they pointed to a set of dispensers embedded in the wall next to the airlock's exit doors. It isn't safe up here with grounder hemo counts. I like how I put words in here that I do not know how to pronounce. Filamayaye, said the eldest in a thick Lakota accent, white-haired but roped with the muscles of a lifetime grounder. My family and I are visiting Dust Jacket. Tanyan Yahipi, Forceps welcomed them. The elder was accompanied by a nervous-looking couple, both dressed in long, flowing cotton robes, one sapphire blue and the other one white. They're younger, a silent bubble of bouncing energy, hair braided to wire-wrapped tips. I am forceps. I cannot raise my arm to greet you, but you may raise it. I guess that's a little weird. I'm not sure how to resolve that. I am forceps. I cannot raise my arm to greet you, but you may raise it. But you may raise it. I guess if you... How do I resolve that? I cannot raise my arm to greet you, but you may raise it if you like. I don't know, something like that. The elder nodded, leant down and pulled up Forceps' arm by the wrist, settling their hands palm to palm. Hinchani lachasin. That is all Lakota, by the way, which is not a language I speak. And we would have to get an actual speaker to pronounce it in the book, but I wanted to include languages that I do not speak. Airheads are such narcissistic wafts. Forceps fumed, still mad, when they'd finally made it outside to Gustown's central promenade. Past checks and double checks, and rerouted by a broken airlock door. Helmet pulled a pair of brash masks from her pack and helped Forceps slip one on. They're set for Vintage Princess, but if you want something else, feel free to repo. Helmet shrugged. She didn't like wrapping herself up. Wait, what? They're set to Vintage Princess, but if you want something else, feel free to repo. Helmet shrugged. She didn't feel like whipping herself up a fancier face. This was Gustown, after all, where everything was out of style. She shrugged the clingy plastic over her nose and mouth, started the flow, and elbowed her way through the crowd. Period. Oh yeah, we gotta get the puppy into shot. There we go. Busy day, she muttered, squeezing past clumps of happy socializers on her way to the outer handrail. The view up here was a cure for any annoyance. Through the clear air, the Earth's long, curved horizon dropped away in every direction. Though there were few plants up this high, the place was packed with color. This was the unofficial capital of the remake rewear cultists, who brought back the 10s or the 50s or last winter styles whenever the need suited them. The whole level was a maze of clashing time periods in which you could find fans cosplaying the spread over recreated microbrews, just tables away from whole teams dressed as 10-year-old all tournaments winners. Everyone fit in here because no one did. It was the perfect place to start a search. Forceps, who had taken more time and care with their disguise, emerged from the transit portal naked to the hips, but for a wrinkled shroud of square mesh patterned to clash, Helmet knew, with the hexagonal mesh of their exosuit, the exosuit currently sitting idle back in their compartment. Their brash mask, on full opaque, painted Forceps' face out to a low saturation cell shaded, I can speak, cell shaded Snow White, original Disney off copyright. They hadn't bothered with the O2. All but the highest altitude bloodlines needed masks up here, but Forceps nectexectics regged their blood oxygen directly, so no supplement required. Helmet hurried along in Forceps' wide wake as they navigated the bustling market. The shop Pinpoint had insisted was crucial. Crucial doesn't seem like the right word. What am I trying to communicate here? Um, maybe I'll say big data hunched. Is that a verb? The shop Pinpoint had big data hunched, was just a few floors down. They passed under personalized AR welcome signs, flitting between moods, their algos confused by the pair's brash mask distorted faces. Mint green, high-altitude moss and flycatcher sandwort clung in clumps to the crevices between wall panels and among unkempt pipes. Old-fashioned neon signs blinked behind the glass windows of a vintage shop, and here and there the walls had been scraped of their vegetation, and I think maybe we should do like... Yeah. And here and there the walls had been scraped of their lichen and print painted by local muralists in multicolor city scenes and augmented abstractions. Helmet nodded into her link-up and tipped one of the murals a solid coin. It was new and depicted screenshot that glider kid who died a few weeks back after either a reshoot malfunction or blind glider stupidity, depending on who you asked. Oh. Helmet, look, Forceps gasped. Do. Yeah, I'm editing my book on the stream. Oh, okay. Helmet, look, Forceps gasped. Follow arrow to figure out where the fuck I'm supposed to read next. Stopping so abruptly, Helmet collided with their chair. Follow arrow. They lip pointed to a bush of silver carpet lamb's ear, spilling its planter. Grab me some. Get the root. They knew exactly where this would fit in their already overflowing vertical gardens. Helmet just sighed, smiling, and wiggled. Yeah, I guess wiggled is the right word. Helmet just sighed, smiling, and wiggled a sprig from the clump, folding it away for Forceps to replant later. When they reached the counter of the coffee shops, Pinpointed, named as possibly connected to the missing even zero docs, a room full of side eyes caught in Forceps' wake. They were greeted by an astonishingly pale teenager, dressed in heavy black boots, a pair of mesh hot pants, and a waist-length cape. Hi, what can I get you? They asked. One house and a large gradient. Cold, please, Forceps added. It was a cozy place. Order ahead or counter service, but nothing special. Helmet, dust jacket ID number 2977H, someone announced. It was the clanging tin can voice from the security screening the day before. It took a second for Helmets to realize it wasn't a port voice, someone chatting her up in the local lobby, but someone standing right in front of her. Right behind her. Who uses a voice skin in public, Helmet said reproachfully, turning to see a square blue rain poncho and dingy O2 mask standing there looking very government issue. Oh my gosh, why am I yawning so much? This is ridiculous. Okay, this is almost end of chapter 4, and then we'll work on chapter 5. Officer, she smiled, pulling up her rear view to make sure Forceps hadn't been nabbed as well. But they were backing away slowly, desperate to dim into the swarming crowd of rubberneckers elbowing to get a better view. Dust Jacket did love a bit of custodial theater, a taste of the old bag and tag justice, especially when the person turned out to be innocent. Everyone wanted to have been there when. We need you to come with us, they motioned Helmet. out the front door. Forceps could hear Helmut's voice drift back as she was ushered away. Ballpoint, buddy, still using the royal we, I see. Long time no mandatory chat. Chapter 5, Arrested. Bum bum bum. A shabby black vine grinder, so named for their preferred diet of shooting vine and the distinctive metallic screech they used to fend off other birds. To fend other birds off their territory, was picking its wing on the railing outside the cell's only window. They hadn't called it a cell, but the bolted down table and the too bright overhead light said differently. The walls were science lab white, seamless except for the window and a slide away glass through which she could see. A slide away glass through. Oh, I see. There's supposed to be a space right here. Seamless except for the window and a slide away glass through which she could see chilling bottles of. See, that's confusing. Seamless except for a window. How about across from? Oh, actually, we don't need this at all. We'll just do seamless. Okay, the walls were science lab white. Seamless, but for the... Sure, that's all right. All right, try again. Here we go. We're going to get it one of these times. There we go. Seamless, except for the sliding glass through which she could see chilling bottles of porters and carbonated aloe juice. They hadn't called it a cell, and had even gone to the trouble of adding a few houseplants and a side table to give you the false sense of ease, but she was pretty sure leaving wasn't an option. She grabbed a drink and pretended to take a sip before pouring some out the cracked window. She hid the bottle with her shoulders. In what she hoped would look like, I am totally just interested in this bird, to the room's 2 cameras. She put the bottle and the cap on the tastefully bland wicker side table, woven from local vines, she was sure. Just in case they offered her a drink. She'd rather they think she'd already been loosened up than have to come up with some, no, I am totally not thirsty, even though it's oppressively hot in this stupid room, excuse. When another grinder jostled in for a beak at the ripe batch of lindens outside the window, screeching like jammed gears, she decided it was high time she visited that new local poultry Eden that had opened down tower from here. They'd specialized in vine grinders. That was a restaurant with a good cause. The door slid open, and Sergeant Ballpoint drove in, forms in hand. Helmet sighed. This again. Ballpoint. Helmet. Ballpoint nodded. His sleek black hair, a crashing wave. The floor-length curtain of his uniform, regal black, rippled around him as he sat. His monolids were lined with sharp wings. Been what, few months? His heavy drawl, like honey in sunshine. Weeks, more like, she snored back. The authorities might not stoop to hiring a finder, but they weren't above arresting one for information. Well, good morning, sunshine. Must have missed me to be back so quick. Now, I know, these here years of experience have learned me to be wary of the likes of you. Reputation, tall. Inability to turn pages, short. Oh. My printer had some errors when I printed this manuscript. Reputation, tall as towers. And that post-security... And that port security you're running... I guess it should be you running. And that port security you running looks to have been shattered and wrapped harder, better milligrade tulip a time or two. I have to read that again because I did not do it right. Reputation tall as towers, and that port security you run in looks to have been shattered and wrapped harder, better, stronger milligrade tulip a time or two. Likely as not, I fire off a round or two of malware from this here device. He patted the standard cybercrack forcers. Standard cybercrack forcers wore shoulder holstered alongside tasers, whiteouts, and a rotation of other non-lethal nasties. And they would just bounce off that armored hide. He gave her a look He gave her a little look over at this. I got me no delusions. Didn't invite you here with fighting in mind, truth be. We all have needs, and I thought mutually beneficials could be made. Refreshment, he indicated the fridge, so she waggled the half-empty bottle at him. Oh good, you have helped yourself. Now let's help each other. That was quite the preamble. She let herself sink back into the stiff cushions, trying to look bored, while her fingernails cut grooves into the laminate. If you need something, you can hire me like everyone else. The documents requested in the interview have already been remanded, he smiled. Acquired by my department during unrelated proceedings. That was just the lure. Just the right lure for just the right fishies. She just stared at him. Sometimes with ballpoint, it was easier to just let the cop talk subside rather than trying to pry it away with questions. His mouth was moving, but she was not listening. So they tricked her into that coffee shop. But if they'd already had what they wanted to find, what was the play? Slyly, she brought up her record of the night before. Besides the overdone security screening on the so-called interview, which looking back was frankly theatrical, there wasn't much unusual in the face-to-face. She'd spun forward to the moment she hung up, looking for meaningful minutiae she'd missed the first time. The receptionist she'd spoken to must have been third-party, vending to anyone who took the bait. Anyone, meaning Helmut wasn't the only finder they were fishing for. There was competition, but competition for what? He was still talking, so she yanked open the details on Pinpoint's Gustown hunch and played detective. The explain yourself, a readout every AI had so you could go back and figure out what assumptions it was making, pointed to a report filed that 2 even 0 badges? Yeah, the 2 even 0 badges had been clocked talking shop in that coffee house minutes after the documents went missing. Arguing, the report said, but when she fished videos from the house's public feed, there was nothing by that description. Where evidence should be only a few strategically rearranged pixels expertly placed to fool an image detector. There was only... Okay. Yeah, just a few missing words here and there that I need to add back. Ballpoint and the rest of his precinct had faked it, and she'd walked right into the trap. Okay, I'm done pretending to listen. 2 sentences, then you're done. She held up 2 fingers. You know I am legally required to preface. 1 down, 1 to go. She put a finger down. Fine, he sighed. This, He held out an icon for the corporate document she and half the finders in the city were out looking for. Was just the interview. She noticed his system's drop shadow had been changed from uniform blue. He was sporting purple shadows. Nice rims. Oh, this needs to be like a new paragraph. There we go. Nice rims, she flirted. This is the real job. He slid the documents. He slid the first documents to the side. Let's see, I should say ignoring her. This is the real job, he said. Ignoring her. And this is the real job, he said, ignoring her and sliding the first documents to the side. I don't know, this is just like kind of sticky. He said ignoring her, and I can just take all this out. Yeah, that seems better. This is the real job, he said, ignoring her and slapping down two images side by side. The first was of an off-cloud storage pack, ID number clearly visible under the barcode. It was an older model, dented in one corner with a port-to-port dangling off the back. The other picture was of a young guy in full jumper gear. The name Screenshot was printed at the bottom. Screenshot, she whispered despite herself. The dead base jumper kid? What's he got to do with this? We have reason to believe the kid's death may have been, shall we say, less accidental than publicly announced, Ballpoint shrugged. Seems we got a bit of a conspiracy cooking, and we want your... of a conspiracy cooking, and we want you... Not your... We want you to scamper down yonder and find us a clue, he mimed, walking downstairs with his fingers. The pieces knit into an unpleasant scene. You want me to find ink on paper? On the ground? No way. I can find you data. Not hunks of metal in enemy territory. No way. Oh, come now. It's not as bad as all that. Sure. Yes, it's next work, but you seemed like a good fit for the find. Bonus, you have grounder expert on your arm. I'm gonna need more. I'm gonna need more than a line about we thought you'd make a good sacrificial lamb. I don't. The thought dawned on her. I don't go down there, ever. Look, Helmet, we need your help. He nudged the pictures closer. We have reason to believe this boy died because someone tampered with his kit. Screenshot's brown eyes and curly mop stared up at her from the JPEG. But why? Helmet asked, picking up the picture. He's just another jumper kid. I mean, he was good, but he was also grounder born. Ballpoint put his hand on Helmet's wrist, just like forceps. She looked up, sudden understanding in her eyes. And, he went on, leaning back into his chair, not everyone is happy about the open borders policy. You mean those go-grounder assholes murdered him? She was aghast. They were usually just annoying protesters, blanketing the street with flyers about how we should all move to the ground. If they like the ground so much, why not just move there already and stop annoying every passing vertical? Suspected, yes. Proven? No. Ballpoint shook his head. And that's why I am here asking... And that's... That's what I'm here for... That's That's what I'm here asking for your help with. I don't know why I couldn't say that the first 5 times I tried it. Asking very politely, I might add. He huffed, chewing his thumb. It's not like we're asking you to do anything dangerous. Nothing up close and personal. Just get on their local network and work your magic. He waggled his fingers. If I could get you remote access, I would, but you know how grounders can be about their networks. Everything is meshed down there, and our only remote is the curated long lines. If you have to go down there everything is meshed down there, and our only remote is the curated long lines. This should be remote access, otherwise it makes no sense. Our only remote access is the curated long lines. You have to go there physically. There's no other way. This is a lot to take in. Helmet took a deep breath. I understand. And you won't be alone down there. We have grounder-hardened agents already working to infiltrate the Go-Grounders. You just need to feed them any information you can... You just need to feed them any information you can find. What's on the drive? Helmet asked. Thinking Ballpoint would never tell her. Sensitive data, identifying possible Go-Grounder members and their movements, etc. Oh, she shook her head, realizing that she couldn't have been their first choice to pitch in. How many times did y'all fail to get it back before you came digging for dregs? Several. Ballpoint's lips tightened. And one of our scouts is missing, if you must know. So stupid and dangerous, Helmet laughed. Why would I agree to any of this? Because Helmet, Ballpoint looked her dead in the eyes. Dust Jacket needs you, and we will make it worth your while. Really? That's what you went with? What? Ballpoint looked confused. You say that every time. What, that will make it worth your while? No, I don't. Yes, she smiled, thinking of that little box, the hard drive floating out there, where neither Pinpoint nor the uniforms could find it. A lost treasure waiting to be found. Yes, yeah, you really do. She stood up. Can I keep this? She held up the image of screenshot, and he nodded. I'm not saying no, but I'm also not saying yes. I'll think about it. Well, think quickly then, he sneered. But she was already out the door, the photograph tucked safely in a feed pocket. The next morning, she woke on full blast. She needed a plan, or at least the first part of a plan where you decide the goals and mission statement of the plan and the goals and mission statement of the plan. The ding in Helmet's head said breakfast was on the front window. She slid it open and unhooked the tag bag from the collection hanging from the drone's clasp and watched it buzz away, barely avoiding sideswiping a gold and blue macaw before hurrying off to its next delivery. Oh, I guess I don't need this here. Okay. The local macaws had recently learned that the drones carried food in those plastic boxes, and gangs of the birds had taken to dive bombing them in search of sweets. It made for an entertaining pre-meal show, the drone's rudimentary AI attempting increasingly desperate maneuvers to escape, the puffs of colorful feathers that decorated every successful impact. Like a cartoon explosion, the tangles of birds crouched like glittering vultures over the carrion of someone else's breakfast. All it needed was a dash of snappy chase scene foley for added tension, and Dust Jacket would have a viral hit on its hands. I'm pretty sure he thought I wasn't going to tell you. Extra pages. Alright, we're almost done with this chapter, and then we will take a break. I'm pretty sure he thought I wasn't going to tell you, Helmet said, pulling the window shut and wandering over to the table with her prize. Ballpoint's not that stupid, Forceps shook their head. No, seriously, he thinks I'm just going to climb down there on my own and poke around the place in the hopes that His precious disc is just lying around under the maglev station. You weren't going to tell me? Forceps screwed up their face, accusing. What? But I just... Helmet stammered. I can't believe you would keep something like this from me. You don't trust me after all these years? Forceps' head was tilted to one side, a coy smile creeping across their lips. Our compartment isn't bugged, you know. How will you ever possibly regain my trust? Forceps, back in their exosuit, clutched at the neck of their tunic dramatically, leaving their other arm dangling just a bit too obviously by their side. Helmet laughed and scooped up their hand, kissing inch by inch toward their neck. Well, kiss as long kiss as we have kiss our motivations clear, Helmet said, finishing out the round with a long, slow kiss, lip to lip. When she came away, Forceps' head was tipped back, eyes still closed, lips still parted, sighing. I guess I was kissed dehydrated, they concluded, taking the tea bag from Helmet's hand and taking the tag bag from Helmet's hand and plating up their souffle pancakes, drizzling them with the fastened cup of rallyberry syrup before tossing the packaging into the recycling chute to be used for the next delivery. So, are you going to take the job? Probably not. They can just repo what they want of my algos and send some keyboard kitten packed to the gills, Helmet grumbled. The thought of actually setting foot on soil made her cringe. Scaredy cat. Forceps grinned. It's not as bad as you make it out to be. The ground is a beautiful place. Trees, rivers, the ocean. It's glorious. Forceps dug into their steaming plate without waiting for an answer. You can see the ocean from here. And I'll stick with the vines and water pipes, thank you very much. Helmet huffed grumpily, scarfing down her pancakes. I think that's the end of the chapter. I think we have officially made it to chapter 6. Woo! Okay, so next time on Help Me Edit My Novel, we will start on chapter 6. Bye, friends!